I came away feeling like this event is an elaborate scheme to prop up Jane Foster and Captain Marvel at the expense of Thor, who should be the central figure of the book. Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and it's time to dive into War of the Realms number 2. I was very apprehensive going into Marvel's event with the fate of Midgard in the balance. I find writer Jason Aaron more miss than hit for me, and the copious amounts of tie-ins, miniseries, and ordering schemes left a terrible taste in my mouth. Nevertheless, it is a big Marvel event, so I'm covering the series for the channel, but not any of the tie-ins or associated miniseries. Issue 1 was fine for what it was, mindless popcorn fun, but nothing to write home about. Unfortunately, Issue 2 is a step back, and there isn't much hope War of the Realms will be remembered for anything of substance in future years. Issue 2 is held back by a cast that's far too large and lame toddler humor and dialogue that doesn't fit the tone or scope of the book. Curiously enough, Thor, who should be the main protagonist of the story, isn't seen in one panel of this book. Russell Dauterman is once again on art, and the further I get into the series, the more it feels like he was a poor choice. An event of this magnitude should look and feel epic. As much as I like the panel layouts and detail work Dauterman puts into the visuals, it only looks and feels larger than life once or twice. I think a classic fantasy sci-fi style artist like Cary Nord would have been a much stronger choice on this event. The dream artist would be Walt Simonson. He pretty much created the Marvel mythos Aaron is playing in. Unfortunately, he's a bit older, and I'm not sure he has time for anything outside his creator-owned work nowadays. Dauterman is not phoning in his effort by any means. The art is pretty good, it just doesn't suit the book. Russell Dauterman and color artist Matthew Wilson once again have their hands full with a cast of 28 characters and multiple different creatures in the battle for New York City. This action sequence with Cap is missing something. He jumps toward a frost giant, and the next panel he lands on a car. What did he do to take the giant out? Did he knock him out with his shield? Was he able to fly through the giant's head like a bullet? It's unnecessarily ambiguous and feels a bit half-baked. The action scenes within a sound effect still don't look right. I pointed out the colors are too muted to make out the action clearly in issue 1, and stand by that. The bottom panel of Iron Man, surrounded by war angels, flying through the city is excellent. A majority of the book should look and feel like this panel. It's exciting, it's dynamic, and the reader feels like they're in the middle of amazing action. Dauterman and Wilson do a good job on art, but it doesn't feel epic often and doesn't fit an event of this scale. I rate the art a 3 out of 5. Unfortunately, this Iron Man panel is also a good example of what is really holding this issue back. Tony's Dungeons & Dragons quip is a great sample of Jason Aaron's lackluster dialogue and over-reliance on toddler humor. I get the feeling Jason Aaron thinks he's trying out for an MCU movie screenplay gig. I hate to break it to Aaron and most of the writers at Marvel Comics, the MCU doesn't want or need you. Marvel Comics have lost readers for multiple years despite having the biggest movie franchise in the world propping it up. Aaron and the rest of Marvel's writers and editors have squandered the single biggest opportunity to grow the industry of all times. That's not the kind of track record that opens doors to MCU writing credits. War of the Realms is being sabotaged by Aaron's worst tendencies as a writer. Humor is a great icebreaker in a scenario with stakes this high. Horny talking snakes trying to chat up evacuees is the lowest common denominator. Plenty of heroes are from different realms. Aaron would be much more successful emulating the Legolas-Gimli relationship from Lord of the Rings. They had a great chemistry, and their in-battle banter provided great levity through 12 hours of Middle-earth perfection. One of the biggest misses in the entire story is the reveal that Odin lives. I will point out first, this is the most epic illustration in the entire book, and Dauterman and Wilson can keep their head high with work like this. Issue 1 opens with elf assassins confronting and killing Odin on Asgard. I knew as soon as it happened, there was no way Odin was dead. I expected Odin to appear at a pivotal moment to turn the tide of war. there would be a fantastic side story about the king escaping death. We don't get anything close to either. Mid-battle, with the heroes seeming to hold their own, Odin arrives flanked by the Valkyries and Brunhilde. We later learn Odin didn't fall to his wounds because he's Odin. Besides the visual, this was very disappointing. Issue 1 also saw the fall of Loki, as he sacrificed himself and was consumed whole by his father Laufey. When Odin arrives to Midgard, he finds his wife Freya. Freya recalls Loki's fate to his adopted father. This is without a doubt the biggest misfire in the entire book. Freya is telling your husband, the king, their son fell to his birth father. Can we get a close-up of her face? How does King Odin take the news? Is he broken, or has this strengthened his resolve? This is a moment that should create great feeling for the reader, but they never allow the character faces to emote. There are a few moments to stop and breathe and take in the personal loss happening during the battle. Jason Aaron and crew blew past an opportunity to get the reader emotionally invested in the characters. So I guess it's time to address what appears to be one of the main objectives of War of the Realms, making Jane Foster a superhero again. At one point, Brunhilde gives Jane a ride on her Pegasus. After Jane explains who she is, Brunhilde validates her heroic nature, because she's a woman and all women need validation, and drops her off and tells her to find safety. Brunhilde has the only real character moment of consequence, as she is the last Valkyrie to fall. It should have meant something, but the character is in all of 4 pages before her demise, so it's hard to feel anything as a reader. Poor Jane gets it right in her feel spots as she witnesses the fall of New York and the Valkyrie. Jason Aaron basically banishes Thor from the story, so his mom will have to leave Midgard, and Odin is so injured he needs Odin's sleep to heal. This very contrived scenario sets up Jane's ascension to All-Mother. In the end, when Jane has the largest hand in saving Midgard, she will graciously give the title back and take up the mantle of Valkyrie in her own standalone series. Jason Aaron, in the words of the incomparable Regina George, stop trying to make Jane Foster happen. It's not going to happen. You're wasting an entire Marvel-wide Thor event just to prop up a failed character who never should have been a superhero in the first place. There are actual Asgardian women in the same room when Freya makes the announcement. Does he realize how weak and incompetent this makes Lady Sif look? Whatever. The dialogue is poor, the jokes are awful, and the few chances for great character moments wasted. I rate the characterization in War of the Realms number 2 a 1 out of 5. Thankfully, the plot itself is basic, and while Aaron doesn't show all his work, it's mostly fine. New York-based heroes, the Avengers, and Asgardians all arrive in New York to fight for Midgard and humanity. Doctor Strange is leading the evacuation effort, and his attempts to teleport people to safety are being thwarted. Tony requests Black Panther use the teleportation tech at the New Avengers Mountain to aid the evacuation, but there's a global malicious event. Dario Ager is working with Roxxon to shut down worldwide comms, and the people of New York are on their own. This is where there's an issue with the plot. During the battle, all the heroes are holding their own against Malekith's overwhelming forces. They never appear to be losing at any point, and I'll get to why that's a problem real soon. Odin and the Valkyries arrive to save the day, even though the battle looks to be a stalemate. No key ground is lost, no important heroes fall. The only hero who even looks to be in danger is Blade, and Jane saves him in a matter of 1 panel. Finally, the magical interference is down, and Strange wields a very powerful spell to save the innocent. Unfortunately, his spell is so powerful it transports all the heroes out of the battle except Brunhilde. She falls to Malekith's blade in what should have been an impactful moment, but she was barely in the book. The heroes abandon New York City and regroup in Avengers Mountain. All the heroes start talking about how they were getting their butts kicked and would have died if Strange hadn't transported them. That 100% didn't happen, or Aaron was too incompetent to show it. Multiple characters should have been on the verge of falling in battle for this dialogue to make any sense. The words of the characters don't remotely match what pen put to paper preceding it. There's some very dumb talk of New City of York and Captain Marvel tells Cap how she'll fight in trenches if she has to. Keep in mind, Cap is probably the only one in the room to have ever done so. He's so impressed that she's a strong female character, he immediately designates her to lead Earth's military response. Nobody else in the room could possibly be more qualified than Danvers, not even Cap, the most decorated war hero among them. The plot is overstuffed with action and seems hell-bent on propping Jane Foster and Carol Danvers over more deserving players like Lady Sif and Captain America. The words of the characters don't match the events preceding it. I rate the plot 2 out of 5. War of the Realms is more popcorn flick fun than cerebral entertainment by design. Jason Aaron's writing really does a disservice to the entire story. The dialogue and jokes are terrible, and character moments wasted. I came away feeling like this event is an elaborate scheme to prop up Jane Foster and Captain Marvel at the expense of Thor, who should be the central figure of the book. The fact that he isn't seen once should have been addressed and fixed by editorial. War of the Realms #2 is a huge step back from the debut issue that wasn't great to begin with. The art is fine, but doesn't fit the book, and I rate the issue a 2 out of 5 overall. I don't recommend reading this book, but if you did, this is a great jumping off point. The writing is on the wall that this is going to be used to service Jane Foster at the expense of Thor, the real hero. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.